Welcome, everyone, to a special guest to our capstone session of Courageous Conversations. You'll remember that we began the year last May, over a year ago, being taught and being guided by Krista Tippett. In Krista's conversation about the Civil Conversations Project, she reminded us of ways we might be together to have robust, to use her word, muscular conversations, to listen well, to be generous, to be gracious, to lean in. And so it is really only fitting that we end our year again with the wisdom of the Civil Conversations Project. I am so delighted to welcome to this conversation Lucas Johnson. He is the Executive Director of Civil Conversations and Social Healing. Lucas, thank you all the way from Amsterdam for making time to share some thoughts with these amazing men and women who have journeyed together this year. Lucas, I'd love to start by asking you about that title, Executive Director of Civil Conversations and Social Healing. Lucas, tell me what that phrase, social healing, means to you and to the work you do at On Being.
Thank you, Zina, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. And it's an honor, and I've admired and appreciated the work that you all have done over the course of this year and this experience. And so it's a real joy for me to be with you in this way. I wish I could have been with you in person, but we all know and understand the circumstances that prevent that. And so it's a joy to be here. Social healing, to me, I come from a background in sort of nonviolent activism and peace building and reconciliation work. And one of the ways I like to think about the work that we have to do in the United States is that we have to deal with a country that has in many ways been at war with itself since its inception. And there are wounds on top of wounds on top of wounds on top of wounds that continue to sort of fester at us and the ability for us to be in good relationship with one another. And in many ways, the work that is needed in the United States is not that different than the work that the State Department might recommend to war-torn countries in other parts of the globe. It's the work of reconciliation. It's the work of acknowledging the pain and the harm that's been done. It's the work of making people feel seen and heard and making their experiences feel seen and heard. It's the work of restitution. And all of that is necessary to heal our very damaged republic, our very damaged society, our very damaged relationships. And all that is necessary for us to be that America that has not yet been, right? And thinking of like Hughes' words. And so that's what social healing represents to me, and that's what that I think our project is about, and we see civil conversations as a part of what's necessary to help us get there.
Reconciliation seems to be the step after forgiveness. Forgiveness, I can forgive someone whether they forgive me or not. But reconciliation seems to require both parties to be willing to be at the table. What's your understanding of reconciliation in this work of social healing?
So, I think of, reconciliation not as an act that is accomplished, but rather as a process of relationship. Mm-hmm. And racism is not something that we wake up one day and decide not to deal with or not to be affected by, no matter who you are. What we can affect is is the character of our relationships and the way that we are committed to being in relationship with one another. And that commitment to being in relationship with one another with fullness and with hospitality and with all the grounding virtues that I know that you have all learned, that commitment is an act of reconciliation, right? And it is the process of reconciliation. So how we commit to showing up, I had a friend recently who told me, I'm afraid that if I talk about race, I'll say something racist. And I said, you probably will. I mean, and because we have committed to being in relationship with one another in this way, and because you have shown up in a way that lets me know your intentions and your commitment to showing up in relationship with me in a way that is supportive and loving and caring and hospitable. Because of that, it will be okay. And we will learn on the journey together. And that is what reconciliation is, what it looks like. That's what the process is. It is all of those things.
I want to process one more word that you used. You talked about this movement toward restitution. What do you think we're restoring, Lucas?
Well, there's a kind of, I think I use that word in a sort of cosmic or theological sense in a way. We're restoring our humanity.
Yeah.
We are in the process of becoming more fully human. And but we are undoing the ways in which we have been so distorted to think of ourselves as capable of existing without each other. And so we're restoring the very nature of our humanity, which is to be in community, to be in good relationship with each other.
I hear such hope, confident expectation in our ability to move in that way in your words. So I must ask you, how do you hold out hope? How do you not give in the face of such great opposition in this nation that we all love? In the world, but particularly in this nation that we all love. Am I right, Lucas, that you are from Georgia? And so some of the actions that have happened in that state in the last few weeks might strike home in a particular way, for instance?
Not only am I from Georgia, but I'm from Liberty County, which is where Ahmaud Arbery was when he was killed. And that's where I grew up and where I home. I would probably be out going for a run. Seeing the same Spanish moss on the oak trees and feeling the same coastal breeze. And so it most certainly hits home. No member of my family that is there in the region or anywhere else in the country is immune to that pandemic. And so hope in the face of this, I won't pretend that I don't get tired. I don't pretend that I don't get angry and frustrated. I don't pretend that I don't sometimes despair. I don't have a choice to not keep going. To not keep going is on one hand, what does it mean to give up? It means to die. When you're situated in the ways that many of us are. So I somehow one must find the strength, and that strength for me is rooted in a sense of community and continuity. And when you commit yourself to this work, you engage in a tradition of struggle. You are not alone because of a legacy that has come before you, a legacy, a community of people that surrounds you, and that are there to hold you. And I am buoyed by that. I am buoyed by the sacrifices of my elders who have made my life possible. And I guess I say that only to say that we sometimes have the opportunity to be a glimpse of who we can be for other people. And we sometimes have the opportunity to see that glimpse of what we can be in other people. And that is a tremendous source of hope for me.
We're asking all of our fellows, those who have traveled with us most arduously and most joyously, I hope, to answer a question as part of their final wisdom to the group. And that question is, I will practice courage by. How would you answer that question? I will practice courage by.
I will practice courage by continuing, or just by committing as consistently as I can to be vulnerable when I'm afraid to, and allow myself to be vulnerable when it might help someone. I want to, I can make that commitment from a position of relative security. So I don't relative security within myself, I'm not talking about external in the world, but I'm in a place in my inner self, so to speak, where I believe I can take some risk to be vulnerable, even when I'm afraid to be, but it still takes courage.
At the beginning of this adventure, when Krista sat with us in that auditorium filled, she leaned forward and looked at the audience and said, "The world needs you and this work. Please continue." And I would say to you and Krista and the team exactly those same words. The world needs you. Don't quit. Thank you, Lucas Johnson, Executive Director of Civil Conversations and Social Healing, for being willing to share your time and your wisdom and be blessing to us. We are grateful. We are grateful for the partnership, and we look forward to our paths crossing and to us being good company to one another in the days ahead. Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you. Thank you, Zina, and thanks to everyone. And thank you to the fellows and to everyone who's committed themselves to this work ahead. We are grateful, and be well, and we will see each other soon.